Hey, what's up guys? It's TechZoomer talking to you here. And in today's video, I want to talk about the M2 Ultra Max that came out in WWDC 2023. Yes, the M2 Ultra Max Studio and the M2 Ultra Mac Pro. And which computer is actually the better computer? Because if you don't know, Mac Studio has completely revolutionized the Pro lineup of desktops from Apple. The Mac Studio comes with the M2 Ultra chip, the most powerful Apple chip ever made. And the Mac Pro, yes, the symbol of Apple's power on the computing industry, has been completely overrun by the Mac Studio. But Apple still decided to release the M2 Ultra Mac Studio together with the M2 Ultra Mac Pro, and the differences between these two computers are like PCIe slots, which is just ridiculous. And the Mac Pro costs $3,000 more. So in today's video, let's discuss why does the Mac Pro exist, why is the Mac Studio such a good deal, and who should buy the Mac Pro. So if you are excited, don't forget to drop a like down below, subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys for watching. Let's get started. So, the Mac Studio. The Mac Studio came out in 2022 together with the M1 Ultra chip, and it was an amazing computer. But the M1 Ultra had some problems. I use the M1 Max MacBook Pro, as you know, and the M1 Ultra was not a mere 2x upgrade over the M1 Max. No, it was not even 1.5x. No, in some tasks it was about the same. Other tasks was about like 20-30% better, but the M1 Ultra was never the promised chip. But the M2 Max that Apple launched the year after that with the MacBook Pros, the M2 Max MacBook Pros, were insane. Like, this was very weird because the M2 chip on the 13-inch MacBook Air and now on the 15-inch MacBook Air is not that big of an upgrade over the M1. But as the architecture started to scale up with the M2 lineup, the M2 Pro, the M2 Max, and now the M2 Ultra, these chips have scaled up much better than the M1 lineup. And the M2 Max actually achieved almost the same performance and sometimes better than the M1 Ultra. So there was a clear spot on Apple's lineup, and Apple decided to fill it up with the M2 Ultra. The M2 Ultra is about the same paces that the M1 Ultra was built on, so they fused together two M2 Max chips with this fusion layer that enables the chip to behave as only one chip. So I think they did some improvements now, and the M2 chips actually work together as one, not like two different chips like the M1 Ultra. In the M1 Ultra, they were like combating each other. So one did some tasks, one did another. When they actually worked together, their conjunction was not as good. So imagine if there was like a loss of 30-40% of performance. Now, with the M2 Ultra, the scaled up has been crazy. Results have been showing that the M2 Ultra is actually 2 times faster in much of the tests over the M2 Max, which the M2 Max was really close, not if the same as the M1 Ultra. So the M2 Ultra actually achieved double the performance of the M1 Ultra, and that's big, really big. And on this new platform, Apple built two new computers: the Mac Studio, which was rumored to be dead by Mark Gurman, and the long-coming Mac Pro. The Mac Pro was sort of that computer that every single high-end YouTuber and studio were looking forward. But instead of that, I think they got what they deserved, which was the Mac Studio. I think that those guys don't need more than the Mac Studio. The Mac Studio is insanely good. It's crazy. It's really fast. It's beautiful. It's small. It's compact. Has ton of I/O. Has the SD card slot on the front. In my opinion, is the best Apple desktop Mac ever made. But why is everyone still talking about the Mac Pro? Well, because Apple decided also to release the Mac Pro together with the Mac Studio and complete the Apple Silicon transition, just like they promised 2 years before that. So again, the Mac Pro came out on this sort of weird place, with the M2 Ultra being the maxed out chip on the Mac Studio. So why does the Mac Pro exist in 2023? Well, as you know, the Mac Pro was always that computer that was made by Apple for people that want to expand their computers in the future. Mac Studio is not expandable. Like, you cannot expand the Mac Studio capabilities even further after you spec it out. So you cannot put extra RAM, you you cannot put extra storage, you cannot change the chip, nothing. After you buy it, it's the same until it goes to the trash. While the Mac Pro, before this update with the Intel machine, Mac Pro from 2019, it was fully upgradable. You could upgrade the RAM until 1.5 terabytes, you could upgrade the storage, I think until 8 or 16 terabytes, crazy. You could update the chip, although it was not easy, you could do it. You had several PCIe slots, which you could connect external GPUs, afterburner cards, everything. You could spec out that Mac Pro as you want to, from $6,000 to $50,000. So that was a crazy, crazy computer. Crazy expensive, but crazy, crazy powerful. But after that, Apple released the M1 chip, which changed everything. Now, with Apple Silicon, chips are built on an ARM architecture. So they are built in one single chip. RAM, storage, CPU, GPU is in one single package. And so everything is more efficient, everything is faster in shorter bursts, but in longer form of work. The x86 architecture, I think, is still better. But Apple decided to go for that on the Mac Pro and launched the same computer on the Mac Pro, the 2019 Intel one, the same chassis with the same PCI slots, the same ports, everything, but just replaced the Intel chip, the Intel Xeon chip, with the M2 Ultra, replacing the expandable storage, expandable RAM, and of course the replaceable CPU and GPU. Now, you cannot use external GPUs with Apple Silicon and the M2 Ultra Mac Pro. You cannot put anything there on those PCI slots, just like some expansion cards for music production, video production, not that much. And I'm not sure if you can do that on storage. Maybe you can put some hard drive there via PCI slots. But again, those PCI slots have been very, very cut down on actual capabilities. So why does the Mac Pro exist? That's the question I've been asking myself for the last 2 weeks since Apple released it. Because $3,000 between the Mac Pro and the Mac Studio with the M2 Ultra, the same specs, everything, doesn't make any sense. The base Mac Studio with the M2 Ultra starts at $4,000, has 1 terabyte of storage and 64 gigabytes of RAM, while the Mac Pro starts at $7,000 and has about the same specs, the same storage, the same RAM, and the same CPU. So why? Why is Apple selling the Mac Pro? Well, I think there's 2 reasons for that. I think the Mac Pro lineup is not dead yet. I think they hit some residual maximum of power where the Apple Silicon reside. I think they need more time to actually create better external GPU performance with the Mac Pro and with Apple Silicon, and they need a bigger and better chip. The rumored M2 Extreme or M1 Extreme, we need that on the Mac Pro. And I think that's where Apple is heading in the next 5-6 years. I think they needed to release this Mac Pro just to shut down the rumors that the Mac Pro would be dead or that Apple won't be releasing the Mac Pro. No, they just released it for about the same price with the same specs as the Mac Studio for actually shutting up people and shutting up the rumor that the Mac Pro is dead. But I think they need more time to improve it. At its current state, I cannot recommend the Mac Pro to anyone unless you are a video producer on a big studio that you need those afterburner cards for video producing on those PCI slots, unless you are an audio producer and you need those afterburner cards. I don't see why would you buy the Mac Pro. $3,000 for those PCI slots and those huge fans and that big computer that has to sit down on your desk doesn't make any sense in my opinion. The Mac Studio is much better looking, much smaller, much more compact, has about the same I/O, and I mean, okay, it doesn't have 8 USB-C ports, just like the Mac Pro. Who needs 8 USB-C ports? Still has the M2 Ultra chip, still has the amazing cooling. Tests from Luke Miani's videos show that the M2 Ultra chip on the Mac Studio is so cool that even on full throttle, the temperatures do not go over 64, 65 degrees. So there's no problem with cooling on the Mac Studio and the M2 Ultra chip. So the Mac Studio platform is not the issue. You cannot expect to buy the big Mac Pro with the huge fans just to get more performance. No, the Mac Studio won't overheat. So the performances between these 2 computers will be the same. Again, the differences is $3,000, guys. $3,000 is too much money for me to recommend you a computer that just has extra PCIe slots on top of the Mac Studio, and it's bigger, and it's bulkier, it's expensive. I don't see a future on this computer. But Apple might, and that's what I'm telling you. If you want to still completely believe on this Mac Pro idea, then wait a bit. Wait, and of course, buy the Mac Studio instead. Buy the Mac Studio, use the Mac Studio right now. It will be way more than enough for you. You will save $3,000 actually. Put that on Apple stock, not financial advice though, and in about a few years, I think you'll have some money to buy the Mac Pro. Again, this is important because the Mac Pro right now, it's totally not worth it. And I needed to make this video. Although people that buy the Mac Pro probably know this, I needed to make this video for you guys to understand what are the differences between the Mac Studio and the Mac Pro. And in my opinion, why the Mac Studio is such a better deal than the Mac Pro, and why probably you don't understand why Apple released the Mac Pro. In my opinion, this was my full explanation, and I think I'm correct. Apple just needed to release this Mac Pro to kind of settle and dumb down expectations for the death of the Mac Pro, but I think in the future they will come out with a bang. I'm not sure. Let's see what happens. I'm really, really excited. I won't buy the M2 Ultra to review. That's just an expensive computer that I'm currently don't have the money to do it. I'm currently reviewing the Meta Quest 2, so expect that video on the end of this week. And if you are excited for that video where I will compare the Meta Quest 2 to the Apple Vision Pro, and should you buy this $350 headset, VR headset from Meta, then of course, don't forget to drop a like down below and subscribe to my channel. While you're there, don't forget to follow my social networks, Twitter, Instagram. This has been Tex Smart talking to you here. Bye bye.